Check 1, 2, check.
Test 1. Test 1. Is that busting your eardrum? Is that too loud? Is that too loud? Larry, is that too loud? Anybody? Is that okay? Okay. Okay, that's all right. Sometimes I do take it long-winded. I'll tell you up front, I'm going to break this down into about 4 different segments. We're only going to do 4 pieces tonight, and probably maybe early December we'll do a water and sewer streets, probably in January or February. So it's just too much data, too much information to do water and sewer on top of it. I tried it last year, turned it into about a 4-hour marathon, and probably what it would say. So we'll break it up that way. So I'm going to start now. Can you hear me in the background? Can you hear me perfect? All right, here we go.
You sound kind of, sound kind of off.
I sound kind of off.
Like you're way out there.
Like I'm way out there. Is it better now?
That's better.
All right, so I want to go over about 4 different departments. I'm going to start off with a word of prayer. If you would not pray with me. Father God, thank you so much for allowing us to live in a community like Brandon. We in this society sometimes we lose sight of the many blessings you've poured out on us individually, on our city, on our state, on our country. We've got people all over the world. We ask that you are kind enough to be with us here tonight, to lead and guide our hearts, our minds, and our tongues. Guard us and protect us. And you always tell us, Lord, in your word, you teach us how to pray. And how to pray is follow the things of us. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I can't hear you, folks. Let's try that again. We all pray together. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, so results-oriented work. And a lot of it going on. Some people don't see it. My job to tell you what's going on. So we're going to kind of go through just a few snippets about the police department, about the fire department, community development, parks and rec, and we'll conclude. Got, I think, 48 slides in here. This should go on for, I'm hoping no more than 45 minutes. I'd like it to be 35 to 40 minutes, a little longer than that. The information one way, and there's some good things in here that you need to be aware about. Now, look, I don't see Marcus here. For instance, I'm going to give you for instance. So I'm in a boardroom, and I'm in a board meeting, and I say, folks, I need to tell you that the City of Jackson has raised our sewer rates 69%, $1.1 million. And nobody knows about it. I'm looking around the room, and I don't see anybody in the room that's probably knew that. Because for some reason it just doesn't get out there. Now, you were there, you heard me say that. But nobody repeats it. So we own 25% of that. So it's things like that, the reason why I talk to the board, and I'm going to begin to take things and break them down to those who have an interest in the community and begin to share that in this type of setting. Because when I say it in the board meeting, it doesn't go out anywhere. So I need to say it over and over and over again if necessary. And we will. So let's start with the police department. Before I get started with the most general overhead questions, I know we've got a lot of empty chairs tonight because Trump's up in the middle, and everybody went up there to see him. But how many of y'all think, really, show hands, honestly, that the government only runs like this? A little bit higher. Somebody give me a head count. Give me a head. How many hands up? All of them, okay? That's just something I'm going to embed in my mind. So if you don't see that question, not tonight, I'm going to bring that back to you some point in time. So our Brandon Police Department, I'm a firm believer that people need to know where their tax dollars are going. I believe that more educated and informed citizenry leads to better decisions, better government across the board. This is the 8th time I've been in this room doing some type of town hall meeting. Again, some of those things got long, some of them short. Started this off 5 years ago with a couple of marathons in here. I do them in the afternoons, I do them at night, try to get people at work, people that are at home, try to get that message out and show people where we are and where we're going. So who is the Brandon Police Department? Are they doing a good job? Do you know they're doing a good job? I think they are. And what's the cost of those people? I want to go do some of that. People see a patrol car and they get locked into that's all Brandon Police Department is. Not true. You got the dispatch center down there, great employees, you change over to a 12-hour shift. That is coming from emergency response. I can tell you dispatchers are the weak link in the emergency response system. Nothing against them. We've raised their pay in Brandon, I think, 5 times or even 6 times in the last 5 years. Not huge raises, but enough to get competent people in there. It's the weak link, meaning if you verbalize something or you push the wrong button. It used to be that you've got phones in here. It's not that way anymore. You've got phones, but you've got screens on top of screens with all the data these people are looking at, trying to get people where they need to go to. Those are the people that get the big red fire truck where it needs to go, or the unit where it needs to go. You guys can come in and sit down if you want. You don't have to sit up and lean against the wall back there. It's about 47 employees, a little over $3 million, dispatch, investigations, court services, got our own court system, and we should respect those people. They do a dynamite job. Always have, always will. SafeWise is a name that you have seen before. We have been the second safest community in the state of Mississippi the last 2 years, and the new rating just came out. The last 2 years has been Petal's #1, and she has told me repeatedly it's just something odd about how they're reporting. It really can't be that way. And we're discovering that there are some issues with how crimes are reported. SafeWise uses up-to-date FBI crime stats. The Uniform Crime Reporting System is what they compare everybody to. Now, that's not the most modern way to keep that technology. And they also use a population threshold. In that study, you also see some things like our crime rates are lower than every neighboring state. We are 72% lower than the national average, which is good stuff. Great stuff. We don't talk about that, and we need to. This is part of what we tell the business community when we're trying to attract people here. There are 368 law enforcement entities in the state of Mississippi. That's municipalities, that's counties, that's state government, that's some hospitals out there, and universities have their own police departments sometimes. But the 368 of them. Out of that 368, only 6.7% of those are Mississippi Law Enforcement Accreditation Commissions accredited. Brandon is one of those 26 out of those 368. So I tell you, our police department's been proactive and they're doing the right things to try to get on the cusp of being where they need to be. We need to take that and we need to communicate that to the business community out there when we begin to recruit people. Also, only 4 of 7 items. That's the new method that the FBI wants to go to, right, Chief?
Going to it now.
Going to it now. There are only 4 of those, and Brandon is one of those 4 that are also commissioned by the accreditation. So we are doing the right things. Our police department's doing a great job. We need more of them. We don't need less of them. So again, for 2018, we are the second safest city in Mississippi. One more time. So we'll get to who number 1 is in just a few minutes. But shout out to our PD. Keep up good work. Brandon FD. Who are they? Are they doing a good job? And what is the cost of that? You think that all they do is sit in the station. Now some people have this perspective of it, but all they do is sit in the station and wait on their alarm to go off. Not that way at all. 3 years ago, we went to a QRB. We also, and I come from that world, and I can tell you, it's always the fire department will do it. The fire department will do it. The fire department will do it. If something comes up, we throw it over to those guys who do it. They're not doing anything anyway. So you run them in the ground. You throw all the tidbits on top of it. Hazmat response, EMS, anything and everything. In-home inspections, checking fire alarms, all this kind of stuff. But we've got 55 employees. We spent about $3 million on them. And this is 2 pictures on the drive home a point. And it caught me off guard when I put this together the day before yesterday. Those Katrina copies you see at the top of the screen. Up until 2 years ago, we had firefighters in Katrina trailers behind the First Baptist Church on Poindexter. Up until 2 years ago. That tornado that came through on April 28th of 2014 cut the city in half. See a blue dot. For those of you that aren't familiar with fire and police, where everything's at, that's the old station there on Poindexter. Right? Well, either one of those three tornadoes could cut off the bottom end of the city. That one in 2014, on April 28th, I remember that because it was my baby sister's birthday. We couldn't get a unit down Lewis Wilson, couldn't get one down Star Brand Road, we couldn't get one down Highway 18 over here by Bob Boyd, because all the trees, all the limbs, all the power lines are down. So basically, everything below that line going across that stream, until you got the chainsaws out and cut a path through, you were isolated, couldn't get to you. So immediately we said, we got to do something about the bottom of the town. You got school down there, you got prolongs, you just figure out, I'm sure some of y'all live down there. So we embarked on, what do we do? The rating bureau had been on us about this station right here. We needed something on this end of town for ambiance, for cornerstone, that end of town. And that was the threat from 5 years ago. If you don't put something up here, we're going to downgrade it. So we looked into it. We didn't have any property. And over the course of about 18 months, we bought 3 pieces of property. One here, and one here. These two are strategic. One, obviously, this one on the south side of town. This one because of what goes on down Shallow and all the developments going out there on Shallow Road. So this one's gone, this one can cover the high school and that type of thing. So, over the course of a little bit of time, again, we did a ribbon cutting on April 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we opened those 3 stations. We bought 2 trucks. We invested $4 million in the fire department 4 years ago. And now we're fixing to bear the fruits of that. EMS is killing our guys, I can tell you. That truck runs and runs and runs. 74% of the calls are EMS calls. You see that one truck running around. We need more paramedics. I firmly believe we need to pay them a lot more than what we get. We need to pay all our employees a lot more. We need to pay our dispatchers more. We need to pay our police officers. There's not an employee in the city of Brandon who do not need to be paid more. Every one of them, folks, I got to tell you. Every one of them needs a raise. Those guys, we did a ribbon cutting on the water well a couple weeks ago. They already, the night before, they made 9 runs the day before on the ship. That's 1 pickup truck and 2 employees running can to can. We don't need 1 of those trucks, we need 3 of them, which means we might have a cadre of paramedics to staff that thing. Because that's where the future of getting to people in the need is. It's satisfying the emergency response needs of God. Now, 911 has ruined a lot of people. You're focused into somebody's coming, and that's the beauty of living in a city like Brandon. Chief Thompson back there comes to us from the city of Jackson. He says it like this: we can, if you're not careful, we can lower our ability to respond to a JPD level of service. We don't want that here. We want to be far beyond that. We don't want to be number 2. We want to be number 1. So, that investment now has lowered our fire rating. I've got information on the desk over here. You can pick up one of those. Your fire rating is now 4 and not 5, which that means that I'll say somebody's got a $100,000 home somewhere around $75 to $80. You need to individually call your insurance agent to make sure they get that change. It's not going to happen by itself. For businesses, that saves somewhere between 5 and 6% on their insurance costs, which is dramatic. Take somebody that has got a $25,000, they got a warehouse and $25,000 worth of insurance on that, and a sprinkler, that's going to save them somewhere around $18,000, $19,000, $2,000 a year on insurance costs. So it's dramatic. That's a huge improvement for us. That's another one of those things that we can take out there, we can trot out, and when we recruit businesses and restaurants, we can say, now we're a class 4. We're not a class 5 anymore. That's a good thing.
When did that happen?
Last week.
Last week?
I've got letters over here for you to pick up. I printed off a bunch of them. Pick up one on your way out. I encourage you to call your own in. It varies so much from insurance company to insurance company. You might get bored. Some insurance companies classify everything 1, 2, 3, 4 as groups. Others break it down individually, so it's going to be up to you and your specific house. Whether you got an outbuilding, whether you got an HO1 and HO2 policy and all that kind of stuff. So you need to call and check on it for your personal. Yes, ma'am. All brand. Everything inside the city of Brandon. Yes, ma'am. And there's a battle going on at the insurance department, which I disagree with. It's reading off the state, which would mean that people that live outside our corporate boundaries would also benefit from our lower rate. I don't agree with that because they're not paying the taxes to support it. So it's one of those kind of things. Well, that's a good thing. Everybody in the city is going to get benefit of this. So you can kind of, if you've got a $200,000 house, it'll be somewhere 150 plus, might be $200. It's a $300,000 house, you know, $225 to $300 somewhere in there. That's a good thing. I can't hardly imagine what the insurance costs on a nursing home, a hospital, GM warehouse, all those kind of businesses would be with a sprinkler application. And even us, it saves us taxpayers money for having a building to sprinkler. It's going to save us a lot of money as well as taxpayers. Need to know part two. So don't assume this is known by your insurance carrier. It's not. Pick up one of those pages over there by Andy on your way out the door, and you need to call your insurance agent tomorrow and let them know. So back to that number one, number two thing. Safe-wise, safest city. So Brandon is the second safest city in the state. Madison is the first. How many other cities do you see on that list of top 10 that are in Rankin County? None. How many do you see in Hines County? None. How many do you see in Madison County? One. What I'm trying to tell you is that you've got good employees doing the work that you're paying them to do. And we need to do more of it, not less of it. They're doing a great job. And we can feed them and encourage them and keep them. So, let's do some comparisons here. Madison 1, Brandon 2. So we look at how many employees, back up 1. So if we look at how many, back up 2. There we go. So if we look at how many employees they have, number of police in Madison, about 110 employees. Chief Thompson tells me it's about 85 uniformed personnel. They've got 41 firefighters where we've got 55. They've got 150 employees where we got 102. 2 fire stations where we got 5. They're still a class 6 rating and we're a 4. They're spending $11 million, we're spending almost 7. The big thing though is how much of our general fund budget is going into public safety. We spend 55% of our general fund budget on public safety. And Madison, Marion, public spends 43. That's great. They got the money to do that. It's very difficult taking this thing and sliding it around and saying we need to spend more on infrastructure and public works, we need to spend more on parks and rec. This is where our money needs to go. We need to be a safe community. Community development. So, I want to back up real quick before I get off into so we're talking about the police department. We've got outside eyes being safe-wise, looking at Brandon, assessing our ability to provide public safety, our police department. That's not us. That's not somebody in the state of Mississippi. That's somebody out there in the world that's looking at us and grading us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's outside eyes looking at Brandon. You go to the fire department. The rating bureau is an outside eye looking at us. That's the state of Mississippi. That's not us comparing ourselves to Pearl or Flowood or you name the city. That's the state assigning that rating to us. They generally come every 5 years. I can tell you, when we get these 2 water towers up, I'm going to be asking them for a new rating, because 40% of that is water. See, that's important. We're due another rating when we get those 2 water, put 1 million gallons of water in the air. That's a big thing. It's going to dramatically improve our water system.
Where's that at?
One of those is going on the corner of Burnham Road. You make that turn and go by the church. There's a lot up there on the left, just past Mormon Church. That's one line. The other one will go right beside the interstate, behind the jail on North Street, behind the new courthouse that's being built. It'll be right there by the interstate. So it'll be a 500,000 gallon tank down there and a 500,000 gallon tank over here, kind of splitting both sides of it. Now, again, I don't want to wade into a lot about water and sewer, but we've already cut the ribbon on the water, 1,000 GPM water well on this side of town, right in the middle of 3 other wells that were put in the 60s and 70s. First time there's been an improvement on this side of town since then. The next thing will be those 2 tanks. When that tank comes online on Burnham Road, we'll go to Cane Circle tank, and we'll take it all the way around, cut the legs off, go back up, 6 cranes to lift that thing, we'll raise it 40 feet to increase the water pressure in Crossgates. So then we'll have those 2 tanks elevated, the old hospital tank will be decommissioned, and then we'll have this tank on this side now. All that's about to start beginning at the same time. It's a good thing. Can I ask you a question? Yes, ma'am. All right, so outside eyes looking at Brandon. It's not us comparing ourselves to somebody else. It's outside eyes looking at us. These guys, there's only 4 of them. They don't, you see a budget of about $400,000. They do a lot of planning, plans review, building codes, code inspections. We had a long talk this morning about some other things that they need to be doing, and I thought I saw Matt here. Did I see? He's hiding back here behind Randy. There's Matt Dodd. If you've got a problem in your yard or your neighbor, you need to beat up on him before he gets out the door tonight. He's sitting back here. But we spend a lot of time studying and looking. I can take you to a room right over here. Some of you have heard me say this before. You can plan all day long. You can plan, you can pay architects, you can pay engineers to come up with this plan and that plan and other plan. Take you to a room right across that hallway and open the door and you almost faint when you walk in. There's plans everywhere that have been saved for decades. You can plan all day long until you get off your duff and do something about it and put your feet on the ground and do it. Plan's not worth what the paper's written on. So, you know, these guys can help keep us focused on this is the next step we need to take. This is the next step we need to take. And step right on that. We're taking some people, I started this off 4 years ago saying it's a 20-year march. We're in a 20-year march. And even though we're 20 years behind Flowood, 20 years behind Madison, 20 years behind Ridgeland, it's not like we're catching up at a fast pace. We are catching up, but we're going as fast as our dollars will allow us to go and our resources. And we're working hard, and you need to know that. So these things that I'm telling you, this is another example of outside eyes looking at Brandon. Downtown plan, comprehensive plan. We hadn't done a comprehensive plan in Brandon in, I think it was 11 years or something like that. We accomplished that. This is something we revisit every 5 years to make sure we're on task to the job we need to be doing. So lo and behold, outside a national agency, the American Association of Planners, look at these plans, and we're getting a national award for some of that planning. 2018 John Keller Award for Planning Initiative. A national award. So here's little Brandon that doesn't look like it's doing anything, and we're being recognized for police, we're being recognized for the good things in fire, we're being recognized for the good things in planning, and we're moving forward. Things are happening. Might not be as fast as you want, fast as I want, but good things are happening. And we need to start talking more about the good things that are going on. Parks and Rec. It's going to be kind of a long conversation. I'll get to it because the amphitheater's in here. So this is comprised of several budgets, like senior services. Angela Pryor is knocking it out of the park. I can tell you, just a wonderful employee, great asset to the city. Conference center in this room, I lost the battle. Let's see, I know I saw Harry in here somewhere, and there's Lou and James. Where's Harry? Hiding somewhere. There's Harry. Look straight at you. Dwight, Talia, and Monica. Thank y'all for being here. I lost the battle. I look at this building and go, this is 5 years ago. I look at this building and go, what city needs a 60,000 square foot city hall? I can't name one. I just can't name one. So, but I kind of lost that battle. You know, there was a discussion going on because the county wanted to buy this building and move some of their resources in here. I lost that battle. So I lose that battle, I come over here and go, okay, well, now let's think about this. We got to figure out a way to get this building to pay for itself because we won't pay for it until 2028. That air conditioner costs money. Those lights cost money. You got the water department, public works, community development on this end, and you got our offices in the county on the other end, upstairs, and senior services. So we've got to start doing things in here. Well, one of the things we did, we had a graduation of Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics in here day before yesterday. Great men and women. I had a graduating class, I think, of 34. I hope the TV camera's not running, but we bartered. You know, this country was built on a barter system. I believe in barter. So when it works to our schedule, we don't have anything else scheduled in here. We'll let MB in or Malota come in here and have a graduation. And then when the next class comes up there, we need to send a law enforcement officer out there or somebody out to Malota. We kind of swap that out. That's a good thing. We started doing acts in here, shows. I'm going to show you some pictures of those in just a second. But all these things, all that is under the umbrella of Parks and Rec. 5 years ago, I had a lady come to me in the parking lot. She had 3 girls in a van with her. And she said, please do something out at Shallow Park. Yes, ma'am, what do you need? They were having to go to Byron to practice girls fast pitch softball because there wasn't a field in Brandon anywhere that was skin on the infield like girls have to have to be able. So they're practicing down there to go play. And I said, well, okay, we'll take care of that. So this is a graph I made. You're going to see about 6 of these as I go through the rest of this presentation here. That was our sales tax from the year before. That last number down at the bottom that you see, our sales tax has dropped $150,000 from the year before. So I want to show you the progression of what Parks and Rec and entertainment is doing to our city. That's what this section's about. So we skinned 3 fields, and they had a guy come, tournament director from Hattiesburg. He said, we'll have 2 tournaments up here if you can go out here and skin these fields off. So we went out there and skinned some fields off, and lo and behold, we had an increase of 5% in our sales tax. This is our 7% sales tax. Sales tax is important to us. We want other people's dollars spent in Brandon so that we can benefit from that. Takes the pressure off ad valorem property tax. So we had a 5% increase, which is $250,000 from this FY to this FY. All right, that makes sense. So we embark on, okay, Shallow Park has been here for 30 years. I could show you pictures of the restrooms. You'd be ashamed to say that was in Brandon, Mississippi. I'm just telling you. You wouldn't carry your dollars. You just horrible. And it's just, they were great in the day, but after 30 years, they had fallen much into disrepair. So we embarked on, okay, we're going to embrace this youth sports phenomenon that everybody talks about. Soccer. Everybody hates soccer. This is soccer time. That's what it's going to be. It's a great sport. You start when you're 3 years old and go all the way up. You know, when a lot of people are anti-youth sports, I got to tell you, if you look at the incidence of diabetes and people that are overweight and children, you know, we ought to be finding ways to get them involved in something where they're moving. That little bit they get at school just is not enough. So I'm a big proponent of youth sports, just from the general health of society. I also need to give a shout out to Mississippi College and Southern Miss having a game out there. There's a girls fast pitch softball out there Saturday. 3 o'clock, you can go in and watch a college game. This is the 3rd year in a row that there's been a college game out there. It's great recruiting too. Last year we had a girls fast pitch softball out there, and every SEC coach for girls fast pitch softball was at Shallow Park. Every one of them. Kind of amazing. So 17 softball fields, 11 soccer fields, 5 new restroom concession stands. That's good stuff. This year so far, there's been over 40,000 people out there at Shallow Park. I know, you know, if you lived out there, you would appreciate that. 39 tournaments, 12 states represented. And how does this help Brandon? Well, you remember the last 2 weekends, for any of you that are on that side of town, if you were in downtown, you thought there was a wreck on the interstate because there's a line of cars going both ways all day long on Saturday. All day long. Well, you can look at where all these cars were. I mean, look at all those cars. Direct economic impact of $650,000. There were 5,000 people out there over 2 weekends. The tournament got so big, you had to split it up to where one weekend was boys only and the next weekend was girls only. There's that much of demand for youth sports out there. It just is. So how did that impact our sales tax numbers? That's the first time in that year, 2015, FY16, that we went over $500,000 in sales tax. Those 2 red numbers you see up there. First time ever. So we began to do youth sports and say, oh, well, maybe there is something to this phenomenon that we've studied about and planned about. You know, it's real. You see, we had another 5% increase in our sales tax from the year before. So all of a sudden, you're 2 years away, you had a 10% increase in sales tax revenue. Just from beginning to do tournaments out there with great fields and great amenities that attract young couples and grandparents. I get more compliments from grandparents out there at Shallow Park than I get from anybody else. Good stuff. So then we get back to this building. We start looking around. I can see, I love to get rid of these fluorescent lights. All those except one, Collective Soul will be in here in October, but Jeannie Robinson's comedian, she was Miss North Carolina in 1963, filled the building up. There were people that drove up here from Baton Rouge to see her do her show. Dwight Yoakam did 2 hours and 20 minutes non-stop. Great show. So is that entertainment? Is the adult side of this? Because, you know, we get beat up a lot as board members. You're doing all this stuff for the kids, but you're not doing anything for anybody else. So that's part of what this is, to begin to develop some adult stuff that can happen here in Brandon, so people don't have to travel to New Orleans or to Memphis or Birmingham or the Wharf at Orange Beach. That's kind of what this is. So how is that impacting our sales tax numbers? Well, lo and behold, the next year, we had 3 months over $500,000. So now you see that's 16% increase, really, in those 3 years. That's good stuff. That tells you it's working. It's good stuff. Now the amphitheater. Catch a lot of heat for this. I'm going to go real slow right here. How much does it cost? And where does the money come from? Because the board gets beat up a lot with, why aren't you taking that money and putting it in streets? Or why aren't you taking that money and putting it in sewer? Or why aren't you taking that money and putting it in water? Why aren't you giving the police department, fire department a raise that money? That's what y'all be doing with that money. Well, you've got limitations about what you can and can't do with that money. We went, in 2011, 2011, right there, this bill went through the House and the city of Brandon never acted on it. It just sat here, scared to ask anybody to vote. Scared to ask anybody to vote and express their opinion. On that ballot, it had to say, for the food and beverage tax to fund the promotion of tourism, parks, and recreation. The law says that. The state law says that allowed us to have that referendum, which says we can't spend that money on anything else. Per, not peers, that's P-E-E-R, Performance Evaluation and Review Committee, something about the legislature. It's already been here. They're going around looking at all 67 of these taxes around the state of Mississippi to make sure that tax money is going to the purpose it was designed for. So we're not picking and choosing. We can only use that money in Parks and Rec. Can't use it anywhere else. It's its own separate beast over there. People voted on it. It was 69, something, you might as well say 70%, 30%, something like that. But the people voted on it. And, you know, I'm not going to do other than what the people tell me to do. And I'm not going to encourage the board. And the board's not going to do that either. That's insane to do that. People said do it, so then it was figuring out what to do with it. What we want to do is figure out a way to attract businesses and restaurants to relocate here. Quality of life is that drum we beat. Quality of life. Good police, good fire, good green spaces, good activities, adult things, and be safe. Great churches, great schools, that fills in the blank. I think anything else falls secondary, tertiary to that. So this amphitheater thing then. Debt service. This, back over one. That is what it costs annually. Okay? That's the check we got to write. Operational. So this is a kind of a double-edged sword. We contract with Red Mountain Entertainment. This little thing that goes like this, start. In other words, there's a show that's coming to town. Thursday, it's the Beach Boys. So Red Mountain and City of Brandon join forces. They reach out. They're doing all this stuff behind the scenes for us. We don't want to wait. This is their pony, if you will. We're riding their horse. So we've got a concert coming. There's advertising going on, radio spots, all that kind of stuff. There's sponsors out there, advertisers, box seat holders, preferred ticket holders. You see how the air's going around the circle here? This is what makes that show work. Box office sales, how many tickets are sold, the concessions, you get a little piece of that. We pay, you pay security out all that money, you pay ushers, ticket takers, and all that kind of stuff. You do the show, you pay them off, and when they leave the gate that night, that deal is done. It's just like a one-day business activity, and they're gone. You wave goodbye to them. So for us, that's important. Come on, big fat thing. That's important. We want it to work, but this is what we're concerned about. So we're paying for that with a 2% food and beverage tax. Somebody please, okay? So how much is the 2% food and beverage tax bringing in? Well, I make all kinds of graphs, and I can show you numbers and all that kind of stuff. I can show you this is the last 3 months, because we get these about the 15th to the 17th of every month, what our sales tax collections were 2 months in arrears. So we kind of now we know what the September numbers were that we got. These numbers, these dollars that were spent, were actually spent in July. So that tax is collected in a month, it goes to DOR, it's dispersed out, next month back we get it back. So we're always 2 months down the road in getting those numbers. But you see a jump here. See that nice little jump? I'll show it to you in another way, in a spreadsheet. Some people are better spreadsheet numbers. So this is a 2% fund as we've collected it from the Department, as the Department of Revenue has collected for us and sent it to us since its inception. So this was November, because that year we didn't collect anything in October, it didn't go into effect in November 1. So from here down, all the way down, is how the numbers go. This matches up to our fiscal years, October 1 to September 30th every year. So you see, the first year you kind of throw it out, because we had businesses that weren't collecting, we had to go talk to them, you know. Anyway, so we got lined out really the first year. The reason why it says that is because we don't have a number here in that first month. But you start looking at these numbers. I can still remember calling the board and going, hey guys, that something jumped up to $100,000. I mean, that's good. Everybody go, oh wow, that's a lot more money than we thought it was going to be. Just from what I call a hamburger tax. That nickel on a hamburger. What we want is people that come here spending their money and leaving their hamburger money here. So, you look at this year, it grew 7% to here. All of a sudden, it's over $1 million a year what that 2% is bringing in. The next year it goes up another 3%. The next year it goes up another 5% to where this is what it brought in the last fiscal year. $1,131,169. I'll be glad to print that spreadsheet and give it to you if you want. Those are Department of Revenue numbers. So you see the increase. This is the difference. Going up, going up, going up, going up. I really don't just kind of discount the other day. So you see that what I'm trying to show you is the growth in the 2% fund. Now, it's real simple. If the debt service is 668 on that facility out there, on that amphitheater, we're bringing in this much. You take away that much, which is what we have to pay on that bond. You got this much left that we're to the good or in the black on. It's not rocket science. Yes, ma'am.
Is that before or after you pay RME and the vendors?
Say that again.
Is that before you have to pay? Don't you have to share with RME?
No, ma'am.
What's that agreement?
All right, let me back up to that. This thing, this thing is like a business venture over here in and of itself, just in this square. So you start the year off, you sell box seats, you know, and business owners will buy those because they want to bring their clientele out, or they want to bring their wife out, or they want to bring their children out, or whatever they want to do. Those box seats are $7,500, $8,000 a pop. We got 46 of them. So, that's right, and we do ticket packages with them, like we've got a community bank club, has a club out there where you go in, you go down and get something to eat and that kind of stuff, and you got clean bathrooms. A lot of you've been in that facility, you know, and if you don't, if you'd like to go, you tell me, I'll get you in there. But you're able to you got dedicated bathrooms, you go ahead and sit down, there's wait staff that'll bring you whatever you want, a bottle of water, you go get you a bottle of water and all that kind of stuff. That stuff, then you got advertisers up top. Then you got a concert series provider. Well, you know, they throw some money in the pot. All that money adds up over here where this thing is taking care of itself. Okay? So you go through one show, then the next show, then the next show, then the next show. We got 2 more shows this year. And I'll be able to tell you probably late December what the final dollar on this was over the average of those 12 shows. Because some shows go up really good, some shows. Their system, if you will, does it like this. They'll tell you up front. If you do 12 to 15 shows, you're going to have 2 great knock it out of the park, great shows. You're going to have a bunch of average shows, good shows, where you're going to get good attendance, and you're usually going to have a couple of dollars. Meaning, you're going to have one that's rainy, wet, or it's cold, or people just don't respond to it, or whatever. A couple of dollars, couple of knocked out of the parking lot, good ones in the middle. All of a sudden, we must have hit a nerve in Central Mississippi because we had 4 sellout shows. It's just astounding. It's so far exceeded everybody's expectations. It's run over everybody, and that's a good thing. It says that need was here in Central Mississippi. And I'm going to show you some more attendance numbers in just a second. But does that answer your question about that side of that thing? Each show is its own thing.
But
Yes.
it's not in that number, that's what, it's not in that number you showed.
No, it's not. No. We're concerned about that side. Yes, sir.
And just sort of piggybacking on that question. So what we're finding so far is each show self-sustaining? Are we in the black?
Yes.
Of every show after everything? And I'm assuming there's maintenance between shows that you got to keep up to plate.
Well, most of that we factor into, we call it show cost. Most of it, in other words, cleanup, all that kind of stuff is factored. We've got 1.5 employees out there, so it's not like we hired a bunch of people. All this stuff is done with contractual labor, and that's factored into the cost of that show. It just kind of replicates and goes
With
around.
debt service, it is a true statement to say that the amphitheater is self-funding now. Is that correct?
It is correct. 2% fund is paying it, and you're getting that number to the good. Now, we're 6 months into this thing. 6 months. You know, first show was April the 18th. April, May, June, July, August, September. You know, we're 6 months into it. So even though we see a good number there after the first year, we need to leave that number alone. We don't need to monkey with that. That's his own entity, his own budget out there. Can I answer your question, sir?
Got it. Please.
Yes, sir.
The question, we got the debt service, I understand that, I understand the 2% takes care of that. But the debt service is gonna be here with 2% all along, I guess, until it's paid for. What exactly is the operations of the amphitheater and do it cost and what it costs us, or, I know you're waiting on some other figures to come in, but up to this date, what is the percentage the city's making off that?
You can't hear, he asked a question on the operational side, where are we on that? You know, I think I just signed a bill, $4,000, $3,000 or something for something that was 3 shows back. You know, those things are coming in off and on. We get part of the concession. Well, I'll just tell you. And I've got to be a little bit timid about this, because I'm not going to tell you what their proprietary system. This is their proprietary system, how their money and our money works. But we get half of the concessions.
Well, I'm just curious because, I mean, you know, we're taking care of it with 2%, I just,
Yeah.
So, the thing out here, we're getting some good concerts, I just need to know.
Well, it's more, I'm trying to get back to, the 462. So we already see we're good over here. Now, as long as the left side of that, we don't get to, wrong way.
Yeah, there we go.
There. So as long as this, see, we're to the good over here, we want to be to the good over here too. But I can't tell you, we haven't even got through the season yet. But I will get to the end of the season, and I'll tell you what that number is.
Go back a couple slides, before you had your lines, your debt service, and one more.
One more.
Right there.
Okay.
But see, that's what I was getting at, that's where the food and beverage tax is up. If it's 1,131,000, and we owe 668,000, then the difference is there's your black. But that's just for the food tax.
That's right.
No, that
That's
doesn't tell
what-
us anything about our operational side of it.
That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
So if it's in the black, then we're in the black.
On the 2%.
On operation, if the operational side is in the black, we're totally in the black.
But that doesn't reflect ticket sales and costs and overhead for what we did at the amphitheater. That's what I'm getting at.
You don't know.
I think we had one show that underperformed, and that was the first one, and I believe it was Chris Young. I don't think anybody knew what that thing was out there. And, you know, it was my belief. But it just came in about average, and everybody's going, what's going on? But, you know, the word got out. So I'll be able to tell you, you know, it's like a curve that's doing this. You get those great shows, and those that aren't so good, it does this. And over a year's time, over a concert series, I'll tell you what that number is when we get to the end. We're in the black. Every show, I think, we're one. So, we're in the black, and we're in the black.
But that's just on 2%.
That is, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
But that's not even included in the operations side.
that's right. So if it's in the black too, we're that much further ahead. Yes,
If
ma'am.
you only have one show that underperformed, you're obviously in the black.
Well, I told you there was 4 sellout shows.
Right. I mean, that's kind of.
Yeah.
I want to know, and I'm sure other people want to know, maybe not now, but what the agreement is between RMA and who's doing the accounting and who's, what, if they're doing all the accounting.
We do it all, our accountants
So you have
upstairs are doing everything.
oversight, you know, make sure they're not pulling in more than the city.
Every bit of it flows through here. We've got our eyes on it all the time, and we've got, I can't remember, I think our audit this year is gonna cost us somewhere close to $40,000 to $50,000, because that's like another audit on top of our city audit. It's got its own budget. So our eyes are on it.
Sorry, real quick, this debt service listed up here, that is just for the,
Amphitheater, that is correct.
okay, and when's the payoff? Is it a 20-year?
It's a 30-year payoff, but here's the kicker, is what I try to remind everybody. As that number grows, there's nothing saying we can't take that money and start whittling that down, which is what we intend to do. Or start paying for the ball fields across the road, or start paying. It's gotta be Parks and Rec oriented though. It's the only thing we can use that money on. So that's kind of in a nutshell. All right, so let's see. So that was Imagine Dragon. All the board members and I looked at each other and go, who is Imagine Dragon? Monica was jumping off the ceiling, going, oh my God, it's going to be a sellout. And I'm going, really? And it was, yes, sir.
Does the profit from the amphitheater, does that money only have to be used for Parks and Rec also? Because it's not taxed, it's used.
Yes, sir. And now, some might say this is a dirty little secret. It's not. But that's just like a restaurant out there. Go up to a concession stand and buy a bottle of water. That's 2% on top of that we get. So it's just like, it's a restaurant. We've got a gentleman that runs that, event services runs that. 2 things are going on in those concession stands. You see those big windows and all that kind of stuff. We get half of that. It makes that operational side run. Other thing is the girls, the cheerleaders of the high school, their mothers work one end of that, and the Brandon Soccer League works the other end of that. Those are fundraisers for them. So what's the soccer league going to do? They're prepping right now to come to us and look at our board and go, we're ready for you to put lights up out there at Shiloh on the new fields, and we're willing to pay half of them, and here's a check. Because that thing is feeding them money that they're going to turn around and invest back in our soccer fields, which is a good thing, good fundraiser for them. So, yes, sir, that's a great question, though. Yes, sir, that push, I'm going to get back to that 7% sales tax in just a minute, because that's the thing everybody loses sight of, is that 7% sales tax. So that's Imagine Dragon, never heard of them, great, they love the place, they've already said, everybody's come out there says they'll come back. We treat them with hospitality and respect, and they seem just like, nobody treats us like this anywhere else. So the amphitheater. So some of you have seen this, I'm sure. This was from Mississippi Development Authority. Shot this out and said, wait, look at Post on our magazine, 2018, mid-year. So 2018, this is again, outside eyes in the world, looking at Brandon, Mississippi. Outside eyes in the world, looking at Brandon, Mississippi. And not only did we crack the top 20, but we were 19th in the world. That's not in the United States, that's in the world in ticket sales. It's incredible. I never thought. There are our competitors, if you will, if you like that. Red Mountain also does the booking for Tuscaloosa Amphitheater and the Wharf at Orange Beach. And they're 30 and 31, and we're 19th. It just says we've hit a nerve, we've got a wonderful facility, we're on the people and business people are looking at us now because of planning, because of fire department, because of police department, because of this. Now, how many people are coming to visit this thing? 63,250 to now. We've got 2 more concerts. We'll break 70. For years has had 80,000 people come through that museum in Cleveland, Mississippi. So when you start talking about 70 and 80,000 people, that's filling up a a stadium in Starkville, or Oxford, or Tuscaloosa. LSU, I think, has got 100,000 down there. But the point is, we got 63, we're going to have 70,000 people here. We've already got 40,000 people that have been at Shiloh this year. That's 100,000 people in Brandon. You don't think hotel folks are keen on that when I start showing them those numbers? Yes, they are. And they're here, and they're talking to us. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. How many of those people came from outside of Mississippi? 30% of those ticket sales. We track that. The analytics of Ticketmaster can show you where people are buying tickets and where they're coming from. I know there's been somebody here from Australia, and somebody from Canada, and other countries. I don't know how many outside countries. It's just amazing. 30% outside the state of Mississippi. And I've got one of these questions in here. How many states were represented in that number? So you got numbers all over the world. I mean, there's how many states on it? 50. How many states you think have been in Brandon, Mississippi, attending a concert? And when they come here, easy in, clean, safe. I go home, this is a wonderful experience, I'm coming back and I'm going to tell somebody else about it. 47 states. Somebody from 47 states. Only states, Vermont, Maine, and Wyoming haven't been here in our city. That's pretty incredible. Let that sink in for a minute. 47 of our 50 states have had somebody in that amphitheater in Brandon, Mississippi.
That's the ticket sales?
And the analytics of Ticketmaster. It's just, I've learned that the analytics of Facebook and politics, it's just amazing. It's just like credit cards. You know, you get all this stuff in credit cards, the analytics of people know how you shop, where you shop, when you shop. It's the same thing with Facebook. It's the same thing with Ticketmaster. Dive into it and see it all. Pretty incredible stuff. So what's going on with the sales tax? Like you said, is that thing having any impact on sales tax? Well, again, this is a line graph. You look at May, June, July, August, and September. Every one of those is an increase in Brandon, Mississippi. What else has happened in Brandon in the last 5 months to cause an increase in sales tax? You think all of a sudden they started selling cars down at a record pace? So what brought people here? And by the way, you might bring somebody here that might buy a car while they're here. It's happened in this room where a man had a Melota graduation, and somebody got up on stage and said, by the way, y'all need to support this Ford dealership down there because we buy our cars from them, blah, 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 blah. And one of the graduate's fathers went down there and bought a truck on the way home. So I don't think that stuff doesn't happen. So here it is in a spreadsheet form. This is the same one I've shown you all along. So we started doing some youth sports and said, hey, man, we need to do a little bit more youth sports. We can see the tax benefit of this. 16% over really 3 years here. Okay? Everybody sees that. Those are real, that's not my numbers. That's Department of Revenue, State of Mississippi numbers. All of a sudden we had 2, then we had 3. So what's happened in the last year, the last 12 months, we've had 7 months over $500,000. Now, $500,000 to a Flowood or a Ridgeland or a Madison isn't going to means a lot to us because it shows for fact we're headed in the right direction. 5 and 5 is 10, and 6 is 16, and 4 is 20. Over those years, over those 4 years, our sales tax numbers have grown $1 million. You just how can you not like that? That helps us fund the things we need to be doing in government. That's good stuff. Last thing, 2 slides there. So, oh man, in fact, let me get a swallow of water. So, in this building, in the last 5 weeks, I've had a conversation with a hoteler, and I've had a conversation with a restaurateur that want to come to Brandon. I believe they're coming to Brandon. I don't believe they're going to be persuaded not to. However, in those conversations, what came up was the negativity sometimes of our community. And they're looking at it. And I defend it. Because people have a First Amendment right to say whatever they want to say, whatever way they want to say it. All we always believe that. Tell my son that serves in the Air Force, he comes home complaining. I said, look, no, don't work that way, son. Everybody got it right. My message to you is, if we're all pulling the wagon in a positive way, I can hardly imagine the two people that spoke to me about this, and we interchanged and discussed it right on down the line about everything from water rates to sewer rates to everything else. They're coming around. But it makes me think how many more out there that would see that and bypass us. Because people, I'm telling you, $14 million for a hotel, that's just not chump change laying around anymore. People don't have that kind of money to invest in a city like Brandon. You know? So if we're going to be putting on the good face, I'm asking everyone in the room, you need to be a good ambassador for your hometown. And you need to convey that to everybody. It matters. It matters if you're pumping gas. It matters if you're at the grocery store. It matters if you're at the convenience store. It matters if you're interacting with somebody who's got a team of ball players out there, because you don't know who those people are that you're talking to. It matters. It matters. It matters. It matters. We all own a piece of it. Your face and my face and everybody else's face in Brandon. It matters that we're positive about our community. It really does matter. So, a couple of things I want to share with you. This is really the last slide, the most important one, and we'll finish with a word of prayer. So, kind of my walk. For those of you, I don't know who all is listening to this out there in the world. Irregardless, I think I'm probably speaking to everybody that can hear my voice, regardless of where you are, probably a Christian. I feel 99.99% sure that you're a Christian. So I would encourage you to pick up your Bible and go to Nehemiah and read. It's a short chapter. You know, the Methodists and Presbyterians and Catholics, they would like us to spend a little bit of time in the Old Testament anyway. We don't spend enough time in there if you're a Baptist, you know. That's what I get made of. Go to Nehemiah, read the whole chapter, and then go back, after you read it, go back to chapter 6 and read it very slowly. Very slowly. You will find in chapter 6 the first, and I've told 6 or 8 pastors this, there's a sermon there in chapter 6 about social media, because it's the first time in recorded history that I've seen, I haven't found anything early in the Bible that shows the use of social media in chapter 6. You can read it in verses 5 through 9. Then I'd ask you to go to Galatians. Of course, and Paul was blinded, and then he wrote this book, short book, 5 chapters. And read it slowly. Don't just try to speed read it. Just read it slowly. And when you get to chapter 5, read it intently and focus on 13 and 14. Because those 2 books speak to the same thing, I believe. We're all pulling the wagon together. If we're not all pulling the wagon together, we're only hurting each other. And that's just firm belief from that. So I would encourage you. Read those slowly. So finally, that's it. I'd like to close this with a word of prayer. And again, I want to say to you that in short order, this was to put that together was a Saturday and a Sunday afternoon and a couple of nights and days when I had time. It probably takes me 3 or 4 hours to put together 6 or 8 slides like that. I won't write, I've seen some of those instructors in here, we get off and we try to get detail oriented, sometimes maybe a bit too much. We won't spend a lot of time on water and sewer. It's a big deal. We're in a lawsuit with the City of Jackson right now on the Savannah Street plant. We're fixing to open bids shortly on building a plant, and I want to talk about our water system. We're trying to do things that are generational fixes. Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about the water system and whatnot, is that when we're going to talk about the cuts for the Brandon Fire Department?
Cuts for the fire for that.
For the employees that have been laid off and the fact that the engines aren't running like they used to? We're going to talk about that?
I'll talk to you afterward. Okay. Like I said, I can talk to that as much as you like. Yes.
Just want to add one thing. With the extra money that we are making on the pictures you showed, maybe from the tournament, and that's great. I mean, it really is. wouldn't that make up for the $600,000 shortfall we were discussing during the budget?
You're trying to budget, when you build a budget, you look at 12 months in arrears to come up with, these were your expenditures over 12 months to get
Right.
here. But you only have the same for 6
I mean, was
months.
that included in the budget as far as the
No,
projection?
no, you only have it for 6 months. I don't have it for 6 months prior to that to budget on those. And I trust the ladies we have upstairs doing the accounting. I trust Angeline and Elizabeth Greenwood infinitely. Let me tell you, then I'm gonna pray, so we don't get off on these side conversations. I know people want to leave. We had 2 TIF plans in this city. You were probably on the board, one of them was voted on. One was the Ergon property, and the other was the Great Angels property. 2 TIF plans. They were bad deals. You don't know that when you do it early on. You know, that's one of those incentives to get business to come here. Anything you throw on the table to get a business to locate here. Well, you go forward 10 or 15 years, and you begin to get out in the world, look around, and you figure out that's not a smart thing to do. It's a mistake. You can't go back and fix it. You just have to endure it. Mr. Jack Whitehead taught me a lesson. What you can't change, you endure it. That's the way it is. On Home Depot property down there, we gave 100% of our ad valorem away and 100% of our sales tax away for all those years. Up until last year, which was the first year we ever got a penny off of that property. Same thing's going on with Great Angels down here. We've never got a penny off of that property. It goes to pay the debt. 100% of sales tax, 100% of ad valorem. Those bonds won't pay off till 2021. Can't change it. It's just what it is.
But there was a time you could make a deal with these businesses coming in, and they soon caught up with us, no doubt. You know, for the ad valorem tax, I mean, you know, sometimes.
Oh yeah, you do make, yeah, that's right. You do make deals. Those were bad deals, but we gave away all the sales tax. Gary was smart enough over in Florida would not give any sales tax away. Just give that all. Right. He's a good mayor.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right. We'd like to close in a word of prayer and we'll get out of here. All right. Father God, I want to thank you for good people that come out to learn more about the city that they live in. I would ask that you please be with them, each one, as they drive home slowly and safely. Please be with them and protect them for the rest of this week, the rest of this year, as we enter into a time this fall for harvest, and a time for Thanksgiving, and a time Christmas that we celebrate. Help us be a community that loves Christ and is so appreciative of the Jesus you gave us, the blood that he shed to save us from our sins, because we're not strong enough or smart enough or anything else. We're not worthy to even be considered in your grace. Be with us as we go in the blessed name of Jesus. Amen. Thank y'all, folks. Appreciate you being here.